PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects. Welcome to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast, our weekly Star Wars podcast here on the network. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, is my personal Kelnaka, Matty Gunner. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm going to flip the script on this one.
Oh.
This week, you are going to be my Watson.
Oh, okay.
Elementary day, PLD, you are going to be my Watson this week because I've watched this episode twice. First off, what a great episode. What a great episode. I'm glad to be back with you this week for us to talk about this incredible show. This show is as advertised. It was everything I'd hoped it would be. Good. I love it. But I feel like I've somewhat cracked the code.
Oh,
I feel like I've solved the mystery. I've gone through the clues. Being English, I do have that Sherlockness in me, and
I am glad you have, because I have not. I have like several different directions this could go still, but I do like the mystery. I do want to say, I'm so happy that you went in blind. I'm so happy that you're getting all this enjoyment out of it. I don't think I'm on quite the same level as you. I do enjoy it quite a bit. I'm having a great time with it, but I want this to be a safe space for everybody. Obviously, we know we are in a world where we live in absolutes these days. Everything's either the worst ever or the best ever.
Don't lump them in with the Sith. Don't you lump those?
That's they're bad. They're evil. Some of them. So that's what it is. But I want this to be.
The Jedi are evil.
I want this, and you are lost. Well, maybe I don't know. Well, maybe you're not lost in this case as far as this goes, as this storytelling, this point of view indicates, which is something that I want to talk about a little bit, a very impressive part. But I want this to be a safe space. We had one of our patrons, obviously Michael's in the Patreon chat. He was like saying he didn't gel with some of it, and he was saying, felt like apologizing because he wasn't like all the way. And I want to say, please, we are positive people here, generally speaking, but we don't mind critical engagement with people about something. So that if it is not for you, that's fine. If it's not something that it's not hooking you, that's fine too. There are some parts that weren't exactly hooking me overall. And I'll talk about them a little bit today as well. Overall, I'm enjoying the show. I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm very invested in it as well. But this is a very safe space. I don't want anyone to get feel embarrassed about not liking something. Unless you're not liking it because of racist or sexist reasons, then you're fine.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yes. Else? If you are hiding behind the fact that you believe that two women cannot raise a child together and hiding behind the illusion of canon, in which I'm just going to come out and say, fuck canon, fuck content. I want to shout out Koi Jandreau. Okay. I watched his review today. I heard Alex David talk about Koi's review and how Koi took a very passionate yet practical approach to it. And he said that just because this show is not for you does not mean it is bad.
Correct.
Something can still be good, but it can also just not be for you. And I was like, that is the succinct and properly put way of what I have been trying to say since we started this podcast.
Absolutely. 100%. What we have been trying to say. Because I have to say exactly
what we've been trying to say.
Absolutely. And I think Koi's got a very intelligent way of looking at things a lot of times. So I very much respect his viewpoint. I haven't seen his review on it yet. I'd like to go check it out perhaps. But he's always been very smart about when he doesn't like something, being like, okay, that didn't work for me. I'm sorry. I wish it did. And, move on. But it doesn't mean I'm going to leave the fandom or anything else. And spoiler alert, by the way, guys, we're all still here. I remember hearing the rumors that this was going to be the one that broke the back of Disney and everything was going to, I was like, really? After watching it, I kind of posted on Twitter, and even I flashed my Kalinowski people saying I don't get it either. I don't understand. I understand what the lore breaking.
Kalinowski said that.
Kalinowski, he's like, I don't know what I like not whether I like the show or not, but I understand. He said something effective I don't see anything breaking either. People are stupid, pretty much. That's how he went about it. Saying, this is not what I like or not like the show, but like this is the extremeness of it. And I will say, I think I know the parts that they are referring to. I just don't.
So I was going to bring that up. I put out a tweet earlier that said, "So I've watched The Acolyte twice now. Can't for the life of me find the part that ruins all of canon forever. Did anyone catch that part? Is it in like a post credit scene?" Or is it just right miserable bastard and the other grifters talking out their asses again? Now, I've got a bunch of comments from people who I think are bots, who I think have been plaguing everyone. I know Molly Damon's been attacked a shitload for just tweeting what she thought about the episode.
Right.
It's fucking stupid. But it was actually Eddie Haskell that shone a light on what these grifters have been saying. Eddie, if you're listening, I'm sorry, buddy. You don't watch these people anymore, mate. It's apparently where the witches they've retconned Plagueis, who I didn't think was actually canon.
He was mentioned, so he is canon, but his whole storyline is like not.
Okay,
it's canon that he was.
It's canon that his name is in the story.
Pretty much, and that like it's heavily implied that that was Palpatine's master. That's about all we have. And,
right, so that's all we've got to go on. So fuck canon. That's my constant theme throughout this whole thing. It was never established in a Star Wars film that he was the first person to do it.
Correct. Absolutely was not. And I saw some people throw the same thing, like it was that and like a devalued Anakin because Anakin wasn't the first like born by the Force kind of things. And I'm kind of like, Anakin wasn't the chosen one or whatever, or what, he wasn't special because of the way he was born. That was part of it, but he was special because of what happened and what he did, and he was the one to bring balance back to the Force. That's what makes him the chosen one, not the virginal birth, which still is not official really either way. Like there's implications that Palpatine and Plagueis created Anakin. There's also implications of the way that it was a born of the Force kind of thing. It's not really, there's theories out there either way, but like there's no real kind of confirmation or anything. So it's pretty much open to interpretation. And the way I looked at it is like, I saw somebody say something like, well, like, so the witches did something that like Plagueis and Talzin and Palpatine could never do. And I'm kind of like, well, how long have these witches been working after this secret? Like they could have been working after it for thousands of years. We don't know. Like, who knows? Like, I don't think these people are the only ones who could do it. It's not that they couldn't do it. How they found the answer to the trick and they did it. I don't think it's a big deal. I want to say, I got to say this point out. I'm going to say this is something we will get into our.
I've got a burning point that I'm like a certain someone that I'm not going to name because they are also a piece of shit. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay.
Just know I've got a burning point coming up.
I wanted to say this, like every time I watched it, I had my own little mini light bulb moment. Not very intelligent, but still kind of a light bulb moment for me. As the fan base of those who were very pretty much anything anti-Disney Star Wars, or pretty much anti-anything George Lucas hasn't touched. And you know what? I can understand that, I really can, because Star Wars was a singular like vision created by a lot of people, but George Lucas had a lot to do with it. He was always heavily involved with it. And if you don't like stuff that George isn't involved in because it doesn't feel right to you, that's fine. I honestly truly get that, and that's okay. Walk away. And but at the same time, you walk away at this point. You don't keep fighting it. But I find it amusing to me in a way. I guess amusing might be the right word. They were the ones who are also like very anti the destruction, quote unquote, destruction of like the EU, setting aside of the EU, wiping out of the EU. It's like, he's wiped away all this lore, blah, 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 blah. Even though that wasn't really George. But either way, it's very interesting to me is that Disney Star Wars has now become the EU. And that's okay. Like, what I mean by that is, like, while it is like the people can obviously 7, 8, 9 are part of the Skywalker saga, et cetera, et cetera. This is now all an era of post-George Star Wars, which is what the EU was. And what that means is that there is no singular vision for Star Wars anymore. So therefore, you're not going to have a singular space of things. What you're going to get are storylines, are books in TV format. That's all, in different parts of the galaxy, exploring different things. And if you start thinking about it, this is the kind of stuff, the witches stuff that we see in the Acolyte. This is exactly the kind of stuff that we would have gotten in the EU back in the day.
Yeah, we got all kinds of crazy shit in the EU back in the day.
All kinds of crazy shit. all kinds of explorations of the Force and what it meant. People losing their mind over, well, they just redefined the Force. No, they didn't. The EU did the same thing like 30 years ago. They look at different points of view of things. We get different.
They cherry pick, right? They just cherry pick what they want.
Some things, what they want. They're exploring. They're taking new points of view. They're taking what they find interesting about it. And no, it's no longer along the lines of this is the George Lucas singular vision of Star Wars. We're not getting that anymore. It was never going to be that way forever. George, unfortunately, is mortal. He's going to pass away at some point. And in this case, he decided early he's going to tap out of Star Wars and leave for a while. He has earned that. He can do that. So at this point, everything is EU. You're right. I'm telling you, you're right. Everything is basically EU now. I don't see what the problem with that is, though. That's Star Wars now, and obviously you don't like it. But then don't watch it. Don't read it. Did you read the EU books and not like them? Did you like every EU book that comes out? Probably not.
No.
If you like your other EU books, you might like them. You might be the one who likes Andor. Great, like Andor. That's the EU book you want to read, or watch. Do you like The Mandalorian? Great, that's the one you wanted to watch or read.
Yeah.
You like The Acolyte? Great, that's the one.
That's the one for you. Do you like the High Republic? Cool, that's the stuff for you.
That's the stuff.
Paul, you just triggered something in me. I have never thought of Disney Star Wars as like the EU.
Mm-hmm.
That is genuinely. I have a new way of looking at it now.
I'm glad
that I genuinely, honest to the Force, have never thought of it like that. And you're right. It is essentially the EU at this point.
I don't mean that negatively. I know some people.
No, I know. I know exactly
people,
what you mean.
A lot of times people fight for, well, this is the canon. You have to believe that this is the canon now, so you have to accept it. And I don't really care. Like, you don't have to accept anything. You do what you need to do, but just look at it from that vantage point and go, okay, pick and choose what you want to watch. Okay, if you don't want to watch any of it, don't. There's no one forcing you to, except for your clicks.
Yeah,
you can read
other than your ad revenue and your clicks. No one's forcing you to watch it. PJ Campbell put out something earlier that it was just like, why bother watching it? If you hate it, why bother watching it? And we really should get onto the news because I'm really fucking tired of giving these guys attention. But I am gonna call it out when I see it and when it happens. It's just in my nature.
Right.
This whole thing about devaluing Anakin, devaluing the virgin birth. When was the last time any of you actually went to church? When was the last time any of you actually practiced religion? Why do you care so much about this? Who's to say a Zabrak woman can't carry a child or children from another woman?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Again, we come back to this is a fictional universe. If George wanted to have fire in space, he'd have fire in space. If he wanted two women to be able to create children together, he'd have two women to be able to create children together.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing wrong with that. And that is the canon is the veil that they hide behind for their fucking bigotry for that shit of, oh, two women can't raise a child. It's not right. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Eve. Fuck all of you.
Totally agree.
That's the veil they're hiding behind for their bigotry. Like, just because they think it's unnatural. Like, Mother Anastasia saying, they consider our abilities unnatural. No, they consider the fact that you're two women raising children unnatural. That was that little line of women. This place is a safe haven for women like us.
Right. Yes, I agree. And there's definitely people out there. And you know what? There are also people out there who aren't hating on it for sexist or racist reasons as well.
No, you're 100% right. There's not.
And there's some people who are still hating it in the wrong way. I feel like it just comes like there's a lot of blind hatred, a lot of we got to talk about devotion. Some people are just overly devoted to. They can't get their head out of a certain era and their asses, and that's it. I was going to say that, but I was going to go a different direction with it. But it actually makes sense too. And they're just caught up in their own devotion to the original, to George, like the George Lucas era. And look, I love George Lucas. I worship the ground he walks on. He has done a wondrous thing. He's brought so much joy into my life. And that's great. And I love the original trilogy. And I love the prequel trilogy. And I love the Clone Wars. He's a part of everything. He's a part of. I love even the holiday special gives me some joy, even though he wasn't really involved with that too much. But either way, I understand you want it, like, but he doesn't need your defending. He doesn't need you to like defend his stuff. I mean, he probably needed you more defending when the prequels came out, because quite frankly, some of you rage haters are the reasons why he sold it in the first place. You reap what you sow at this point.
You had
That's
it
part of
coming.
it. But like, I just feel like some people, you got to just take a step back. And at this point, there's going to be people that you like that do stuff. You like the Tony Gilroys. Maybe you like the Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni's. Maybe you don't like the Leslie Headland story. Okay, don't watch it. Move on. Go. Okay, so sit back. All right, time. Let's wait for Skeleton Crew now. Let's wait for the next Mando. Let's wait for the Mando and Grogu movie. Do what you need to do. It just seems like it's a lot of rage and a lot of hating and a lot of social engagement in the wrong way. And I just hate when people get overly attacked and harassed for liking something. And you know what? I don't want to see people getting overly attacked and hated for hating something either. No. I don't think we should assume anything, but just engage with people in a proper fashion. And you engage with me in a proper fashion and tell me you don't like it, and I don't like it because of this. And, I didn't like this part of it, and this didn't leave me. This didn't engage with me. Perfectly fine, and I accept that. That's where we are, and that's where we all need to be, I think. And I know there's some people guilty on our side as well. We see somebody who doesn't like something, and it's kind of like, hey, we lump it quickly, and that could happen. And I apologize for that. Those people too, because sometimes things just happen, and like it's a part of what PJ actually posted earlier as well. Is like sometimes it gets that whole, it almost sucks the joy out of it a little bit because it's just the discourse is so heavy on it. And it's like there's no break from it. There's no give or take from it. It's kind of like you got to either curate your Twitter feed line to be all positive, or you got to just not engage with some people. And that sucks. I like engaging with everybody, but unfortunately, there are people that are no longer worth engaging with. And if you engage with me in that fashion, I'm just not going to engage back because you're not worth my time. You're not worth my time.
Like if you tweeted me saying you can't for the life of me find the part in this show that is actually any fucking good,
it's so disingenuous to me,
which is a quote from my replies.
Oh, I know. I saw it. Like, the thing is, you look at the polls. People like put polls afterwards. What was this episode rated out of 10? It'd be 0, 4 to 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you almost always see the same thing in these polls. Like if they're Twitter wide, it'll be 9 to 10 all the way up and 0 all the way up.
Mm-hmm. Never in the middle.
So nobody can sit there and say like, "Yo, I liked it. It was good. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but it was good." That seems to be a lost art at this point.
People even use "fine" as like a derogatory term. Like if someone said, "Oh, it was fine. It was fine. Cool. It was fine."
Yeah. I think
nice.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. Yeah, exactly. The same way, because I would use it in the proper way. Yeah, it was fine. It was good. It wasn't something I'm over the moon about, but it's not something I'm hating either. It's fine. It's good.
It's fine. It's fine. It's good.
We're talking about it.
We've wasted too much fucking time on this. We got news talk. We got your favorite thing. We got this is a good show. We got news. We got clues.
We got everything else. News and clues. I got a couple of quick. If you haven't been here before, it's too late for me to say. It's just the first 18 minutes in now. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, all that kind of good jazz. Fight the almighty algorithm. We're here for it. Help us battle the algorithm.
We got news. We got clues. You guys help us get the views.
Bingo. I like that. That's our new statement. I like that. A little bit of news this week. Not too much. I want to say real quick. I'll talk about the Acolyte first since we are there. Then we have one other little piece of news. The first one I want to talk about the early numbers of the Acolyte out there at Disney Plus, which hasn't always been the most forthcoming with all of its ratings numbers. And yes, I'm well aware that they sometimes manipulate the numbers in terms of like they want to put their best foot forward so that like it sounds good and for their shareholders. I get those arguments, but I just had to respond to what they're telling me and what they're saying. And Disney Plus has updated its viewership, which is the first time they did that. Usually they kind of say, like for Ahsoka, they would say 14 million over the first 5 days. That's all we ever heard about it. In this case, the Acolyte got like 4.8 million views in the first 24 hours, the pilot did, which was like their number one for the year. Granted, there hasn't been a whole lot out like premiering this year, and I get that argument too, but it's still a decent enough number.
That's a lot of people watching it within the first 24 hours, dude.
Absolutely. And in the update, the pilot amassed 11.1 million views over the 5 days, which is slightly under, about 3 million under Ahsoka, which to me actually makes a lot of sense. Ahsoka is a beloved character. Ahsoka it had Dave Filoni at the helm, was a very popular guy as far as Star Wars goes. So for the Acolyte to be something that's completely cut off from the Skywalker saga, something completely different, I think 11.1 million is a solid number, and I'm very happy with that. I think it's a good number to base on, and I think Disney, if they're updating it to say 11.1 million, then they're happy with it as well. So I think this is overall a plus. Now, we'll see how the numbers go. Hopefully those aren't numbers that people fall off from. Too bad. There'll be some decline. There always is. People check out a show. It's not for them. They stop watching or whatever. That's going to happen.
And they come back and they're like, oh, I should check that out again.
Right. And that comes back later on. So who knows? That's why I don't put every stock into numbers, but I think they're interesting numbers. And I think it's a solid entry into our library at this point.
It's like I was recently finishing up Shogun. And then you and your esteemed seasonal co-host, Kiwi Jess, recommended I start on Doctor Who. I still haven't finished Shogun because I've started on Doctor
Who. Let me tell you, I love Shogun. Go to Doctor Who. Go to Doctor Who.
Okay. I've only got one episode left of Shogun, so I might finish it tonight. But
that's fair. That's fair. Actually, I just finished Shogun myself recently. Great show. Loved that show, to be honest with you. But all right, next up, we got also Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland during conversations about the Acolyte also let loose that she would be interested in exploring the live action Knights of the Old Republic era story, specifically Kreia, because that was the character that really kind of got her going in a way. Obviously, if you played Knights of the Old Republic 2, you know that Kreia is a mysterious mentor figure. And, spoiler alert from a long, very old
game over 20 years old.
20 years old. It turns out at the end that she is actually a Sith, and you end up having to fight her at the end. Darth Treya, I believe it is, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely a dark storyline. I'm in. Now, I know some people have their issues. I think that this could be a very cool story. I think that Leslie Headland's shown what we've seen in the Acolyte so far could handle it very well. And I am pretty much in. I don't think we're going to have any other choice to do it, because I know from what I've gathered from people, Dave Filoni is not a huge fan of the Knights of the Old Republic stuff, which is fine. You don't have to be. But if she wants to push the issue and Acolyte does well enough for them that she can push the issue and do it, I don't think he would stand in her way as long as it didn't really jump ship anywhere. I'd be interested in seeing it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I played that game. I love that game. She wants to take that story up. Hell yeah. I mean, the buck doesn't stop with Filoni. It stops at Kathleen Kennedy.
Sure.
If Leslie Headland continues to do the good job that she's doing, she wants to do another one. Kathleen Kennedy says, yeah, have at it. Come up with something. Pitch it to us. Yeah. If we like it, go for it. They're going into the Old Republic stuff anyway with Jimmy Mango. So
and actually, if I'm right, there's the Jane Mangold Dawn of the Jedi, then there's the High Republic. There's actually the Old Republic in the middle.
That's what I mean. Like you got the Jedi Prime, and then Old Republic, High Republic.
Yeah, Old Republic is completely untapped as far as we don't have any projects that we know of in that era yet. So that would be a nice one to do. I would think that, or
they put up a graphic for it in the timeline when they put up Alex Damon's favorite graphic of the timeline. there was one for the Old Republic in there. So
Alex just heard timeline and woke up in a cold sweat somewhere. But yeah, all right. So let's get some quick other news bits before we get into the episode. Finally, we got Young Jedi Adventures are returning for season 2 in August, and not much more to say about that. But my takeaways real quick. It was popular enough to get a season 2, which is a good thing because that means we're getting more young kids into Star Wars. That's a good thing. And B, this might finally push me to finish watching season 1.
Can I add a third?
Go ahead.
The Nubs Nation have something to rejoice over.
That's true. Praise be to Nubs. And that, obviously, I have not finished.
Did you just say praise be to Nubs?
I said praise be to Nubs. Yes.
I still maintain you're all bandwagon jumpers. All of you. A lot of you. First it was Dave, a.k.a. Grogu. I got in trouble the other day for calling him Dave. Then you jump over to Nubs,
Right.
and now
right.
you guys are jumping over to Pip.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a nation for sure. That's a
I mean,
nation for sure.
I would happily like. I'm not jumping off of the B2 emo train. That's still my boy. But
Right. That's okay. I get it.
I would take a Pip.
I totally get that as well. I will say it's interesting that because now, again, I haven't watched season one, and not because it's not good. It's just it's a really, really young audience. It's not a show I'm
Yeah,
gonna like
it's not
need
for
to
us.
watch. Although I've heard some things at the end that it actually bumps up against the like beginning of the High Republic book series or whatever. So it's funny that some people mention, oh, maybe Young Jedi Adventures, maybe the Nihil are coming, and we're gonna have to deal with them in
Starlight
season
Beacon's gonna
two.
fall down on Nubs' head.
And I'm kind of like, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around because I've read most of the High Republic. I've definitely read all of phase 1 and 2. I've not gotten to phase 3 yet. I'm rereading phase 1 because I did it chronologically. I did phase 2. I'm in phase 1 now, and I will get to phase 3 when I'm done with phase 1. But it's a very overall pretty dark storyline. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the Nihil and Martian Row in the Young Jedi Adventures with Nubs. So if that happens,
Markion Ho.
I'll probably be very interested. Right? So
The way he sits on his chair with like his leg crossed, almost like Moore, and he's got his shirt off. I can't remember who coined that term, but someone started calling him Markion Ho, and I was like, "Yep, that makes sense."
Well, if that happens, I'll definitely finish season 1. I'm going to finish season 1 eventually anyway. I have a couple things in my back burner I haven't finished from Star Wars. Very rare I don't finish a Star Wars project, but it is Young Jedi Adventures. I still got to finish Resistance. I never actually really finished Resistance.
I think Charles Saw said he's just started writing the final book
Of the High Republic. Yes, I did hear that as well. I'm interested. Actually, one thing I didn't. Somebody asked this in a comment, and I don't know if you replied. I never looked back. I am interested to see, like, because he announces like the end of the High Republic era or the Initiative. Is that
Yeah.
the end of the High Republic now, or is there going to be more? Or is
No.
this just the original storyline they had planned?
I think this is part. It's the end of the publishing initiative. I think people will take up like comics and like offshoot stories, but
Right.
no, especially if like the Acolyte is pulling in 11 million people for its first pilot.
Like, I'm wondering if they're going to move on to another initiative somewhere, or if they're just going to start like, is the Star Wars book? I mean, this is still a little bit away. Alex, this isn't coming out till at least 2025, I think, or maybe even 2026. I'm not even sure. I think it's
2025 is the
2025,
last
right?
book.
Okay, last book. Like, that was the big push. We had like little books that are coming out here and there, like The Living Forest, which I'm still reading and I'm loving so far. By the way, I'm about halfway through, a little bit more.
We need to review that.
I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I've read that. You know, some things have come out very rarely. We had The Rise of the Red Blade come out at one point. They all come out as separate from the obviously initiative. But once the initiative is over, like, are we going back to just books whenever we want, books that tie in, or is there going to be another bigger initiative? Maybe that's what the Old Republic's going to happen. Maybe we're going to get maybe they'll shift their minds and we'll get an Old Republic initiative at that point potentially to start seeding the ground to where we get.
I would like them to bring the games in. I would like them to like include, because I get we've got a big initiative, but like gaming is important as well, especially at a time where the gaming industry is falling apart. Like, I think it would be cool of them to like actually bring games like Knights of the Old Republic into their storytelling. But so that's solely just because like there's other mediums. But I think it's going to be like we're starting to get little offshoot books here and there, like maybe like Ava Chris will get her own like comic run or something, which I can't remember who I saw tweet earlier. I think it was either Nikki Kumar or Alden Diaz tweeted live action Ava Chris, Brie Larson.
Yeah. That's, I mean, yeah.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, absolutely would. 100% watch it. So all right, let's move on. Last bit of news before we get into the episode today, and or season 2 writer credits revealed by the WGA. I thought this was pretty interesting overall. We have the first, second, and third episodes will be written by series showrunner Tony Gilroy, who also wrote the opening and closing arcs of season 1, and also obviously wrote additional material for Rogue One before that. The fourth, fifth, and sixth episodes will be written by Beau Willimon, who is the man who wrote the Narkina 5 arc of season 1 and is now co-writing the Jedi Prime era, whatever Star Wars movie set in the Dawn of Jedi era with James Mangold. So that's cool news. The 7th, 8th, and 9th episodes will be written by Dan Gilroy, who wrote the Aldani arc of season 1, also co-wrote the Bourne Legacy and Kong Skull Island. Obviously, has worked well with Tony Gilroy, and has been married.
Future Metal Gear Solid director Jordan Voight Roberts did Kong Skull Island.
That's right. That's right. And Dan Gilroy, who is also, by the way, married to Renee Russo. So, wow, good for you, sir. Good for you. And finally, the 10th, 11th, and 12th episodes will be written by Tom Bissell, who is an interesting. I saw that and I saw that's the least of the names I know. He's writing probably the biggest arc of the. I mean, you got to close it out strong, right? He's known for being the writer of multiple games in the Gears of War series, and also the author of The Disaster Artist. So, very interesting resume.
I know who that is.
Okay, you can talk about more than I can. Then I have no idea what to expect from him.
Yeah, you're gonna expect. Oh, it could get violent.
Okay.
It could get pretty like geopolitical and violent.
Okay.
If they're going with a guy who wrote on Gears, that's very interesting. By the way, I gave a ooh out of like just respect. Who's Renee Russo?
Oh, you don't know Renee? Oh, Lethal Weapon series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phenomenal actress. She's.
I was just giving a ooh because out of kindness and respect, but
she is a wonderful, gifted actress, and as well is a looker as well. She is both easy on the eyes and as well as a smart, intelligent, awesome woman. So that's a perfect package kind of woman. So it's one that he should be. You won big, Dan. You won big.
Speaking of full packages, I gotta give credit, and we can move on after this. This new doctor, Chutigawa.
Yes.
Full package.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Full package. Like I would bring him home to meet my mother.
Absolutely. You can hear me praise him a lot on my Big Blue Box with PJ and PLD and sometimes Kiwi Jess. But yeah, I've never loved the Doctor quicker than I've loved the Shooty. It takes me a little while when they switch sometimes to get into it. Shooty, I loved right from the moment he stepped on the screen with David Tennant in the giggle. So,
I watched one episode with the man, which was the episode that sent me into existential crisis.
Yeah, right.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, so, he really is. He absolutely is. So you have a lot. I can't wait for you to get there. My favorite doctor, by the way, is Peter Capaldi. You'll get there too, but we'll get there.
Peter Capaldi's in it.
Peter Capaldi is the doctor for. He is the 12th Doctor.
Does he swear a lot?
No, he does not. He is the 12th Doctor, so you have a lot to look forward to for that. Though he is my favorite. He was actually a big fan of Doctor Who. He wrote to the fan club. He was like part of the fan club. He wrote letters to the Doctor, like Doctor Who, and so he was like a super fan back in the day. And so he got to become a part of it, and it was like his lifelong dream, and it was a joy. He understood the Doctor probably better than any other person who's been the Doctor since, or in at least the new Doctor Who realm. I feel, it's my opinion, but I love him. But we'll get there. It's not Big Blue Box with PLD and Matty at this point. Let's go into the episode. Let's break down this sumbitch, as they say. And sumbitch, Acolyte, episode 3 of season 1. Destiny is the title. Not going along the same name packaging that we had the first 2 episodes, where we had like the whatever slash whatever and whatever slash whatever, just the one word, just Destiny. Not so. It's an interesting way to go about it this time about. I don't know. Wonder if
it also kind of lends to a theory that you talked about off camera. So,
okay. Well, we're bringing the duality of it and everything else potentially. All right, let's get into our segments. And first segment, as we always do on this show, is Hondo Watch 2024.
Who wants to see Hondo's Watch? Talk to me.
Does Hondo Ohnaka appear in this episode of The Acolyte as he finally made his way back from limbo since we last saw him, I believe, at the end of Rebels? It might be the last place we actually saw on screen. And the answer.
This effort is no longer profitable.
Someday I will be able to do the yes gif, or as I have someday, the little mini vid I have for yes, but not this week. And like I said last week, I'm not expecting him in this series. It's a little too early for the old man here, unless he's in diapers. We did what we could be watching. What John Doe watched? Is that what we said? I forget what we said last week.
Yeah, John, because it's John Doe. We don't know that. First of all, I just want to apologize to our listeners for my squeaky ass desk. I'm holding one of the chair legs, the desk legs now, and it is kind of a bit loose. So if you do hear squeaking, that is my desk. I'm trying to not lean onto one side, so I do apologize if you guys have picked that up. But yes, we are currently on John Doe watch. Hondo's father, I believe, or
father, grandpappy,
figure.
who knows?
I can't imagine someone like Hondo's dad would have stuck around very long.
Probably not.
He probably went out for a few pints of blue milk and didn't come home.
Yeah, went for some
probably why Hondo is the way that he is.
Went to the corner market to get some death sticks and then never came home. That sounds like right. That sounds right. Hondo never talks about his father. He only talks about his mother, really. So maybe that's where we're gonna get. Maybe we'll get Hondo's mother.
You're right.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get Hondo's mother at some.
You get Jane Doe.
There you go, Jane Doe watch.
Jane Doe album I have tattooed on my arm.
There you go. All right, let's move on to our next segment. It would actually mean something this week now at this point because unfortunately, Hondo. Okay, anyway, the Acolyte of the week.
But an Acolyte kills the dream.
This is our favorite character of the week, basically. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be actually an Acolyte. It could be anybody. It could be a Jedi. It could be a witch. It could be, anybody we want it to be. But I have one right away, and I'm going to give it to you. Mine, Mother Anastasia.
Same.
I kind of thought this might be the case because, quite frankly, she was, to me, by far the standout. I mean, Soul did well as well. I still think Soul has overall been the MVP of the series, acting circles around some of the people overall completely. I also, by the way, I didn't hear Soul Squad. I didn't see someone else say Soul Patrol.
Sean Sullivan coined the term Soul Patrol.
I did like that as well.
I want to give Sully full credit for that.
Okay.
And yeah, that works. I like that. If we got the Yord Horde, then we got the Soul Patrol.
Soul Patrol. I still held on to Soul Squad, but it is what it is. I'm okay with it either way. Soul is
poetry
great.
rhymes.
Exactly. But I will say Mother Anastasia by Jodie Turner-Smith was a fascinating character this week on all sorts. Mysterious character to some degrees. Not in terms of it's not mysterious in terms of where it's more mysterious of who is she at heart. Like she seems like a very good person. And I feel like in my gut she's a very good person. Yet there's some implications that she dabbled in potentially dark side magic. Or is it only dark side magic from the point of view of the Jedi? It's hard to really delve into what's going on with that. But either way, she plays herself as a loving mother of both the Coven and of her daughters, as we find out that she has created. And we're going to get to that for sure. But I did love it. It was a perfect job of performance. She kind of played both sides very well. She had her confrontations with Mother Coral and her interactions with May and especially with Osha and with the Jedi and trying to figure everything out. There's a lot of love there, a lot of warmth in her character. I'm interested to see what happened and where it went. And we're going to get to that in a little bit as well. But definitely Mother Anastasia for me was my favorite character of the week.
Same. Jodie Turner-Smith is a phenomenal actress. I was captivated by Mother Anastasia from the first moment she appeared on screen, and I think that's as like a cult witch, not a cult, like cause not all witches are cult or in a cult, but like the mother of a coven. Like that's the aura that she's supposed to exude is like you see her and you're like, whoa. Almost like a siren song is singing when she walks in a room. And if anyone's seen Queen and Slim, she's fantastic in that. It's cool. She's brilliant in that movie. I didn't know that was who played Queen, but I've seen that movie and I love that movie. And that movie genuinely got visceral emotional reactions out of me, as she did here. I teared up in the moment when Osha was telling her that she wanted to be a Jedi, because it made me. I'm really curious to hear Jennifer Landa of Force Center's opinion on Mother Anastasia's performance in this scene, because Jennifer herself is a mother, and we don't get a lot of mothers in the mother-daughter connection in Star Wars. It's usually a father-son,
right?
Connection.
Absolutely.
And the mothers that we have had, Mother Talzin, the mother of the Path of the Open Hand, they've always like kind of leaned towards the dark, crazy midsummer kind of a vibe. You know, Leia we didn't get to see a lot of as a mother. Padme
Right.
we saw zero of as a mother.
Unfortunately, yes.
The parallel between Mother Anastasia and Shmi is so present here. Even with some of the things that she says, like I was getting teary-eyed because I was like, this is Shmi talking to Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely, I mean, there's a lot. There was a very much a lot of connection with the Phantom Menace, like some callbacks, throwbacks, connections. And that was definitely one of them. There definitely was Osha and NSA was definitely a allegory or connected to Shmi and Anakin. Both wanted to kind of go out and see the world or see the universe, see different stars, want to get away from their, you know, homeland, which was kind of limiting to them. But they did so with trepidation. They both like, you know, she like Osha doesn't want to necessarily leave Mother Anastasia and everybody, but she needs to do her own thing. I know it's part of it. It's part of being a twin. I've actually had discussions with some twins before, and it makes sense to me. A lot of times you'll see twins like refuse to go to college together. They want to establish themselves as a singular identity because they've been so lumped in with this other person for their entire life. And you know, some people don't, and that's fine. They like that. They like having the backup. They like having that person they can be connected to the whole time, and that's fine too. But some of them want to find out, you know, like, who am I outside of? Who is Osha outside of May and Osha? Like, and she wants to find that out. May doesn't. That leads to some disagreements and some contention. But you have to do what's best for you, and Osha comes to that with some assistance. So assistance from Soul, assistance from Mother Anastasia, being so open to letting Osha have that decision. So I find that a fascinating give and take. And that's why Anastasia makes it as far as she does in my Acolyte of the Week moments, because she had that openness to be like, I want to at least consider your thoughts and feelings on the situation, even if others don't. Like Coral seems very hard and more May and not wanting to let her leave. I think something obviously when we're gonna keep not tiptoeing on that line of some of the stuff that happens towards the end, but we'll get there for sure.
I mean, you have Mother Coral who's like the hard parent, right? Even when, you know, Osha and May they went running off outside, you know, Mother Coral was like, we need to be stricter with them. And Mother Anastasia was like, they're children.
They're children,
like,
right?
They may be special, but they are still children. And by the way, I love the thread, how this coven sees the Force as a thread. And Anastasia even says it, like, you pull on the thread, you change everything.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it's definitely a different concept. I think the witches are starting to lean more towards Coral. It feels like they were along her lines, whereas Anastasia was just trying to kind of hold everything together and protect them. I think protecting the Coven was a big part of her decisions. It felt like to me, like when she was allowing the Jedi in, it was kind of like in the mindset of, you guys don't really understand how powerful the Jedi are and how powerful the Republic is. And if we refuse them or start fighting them, they could wipe us out. And so I'm going to do my best to be as open as I can and try to let things go slowly but surely so that we can keep our livelihood the way we want. It's definitely an interesting concept. I know I'm fascinated. I talked about this pre-air. I'm fascinated to hear what Joseph Scrimshaw says about this, because I know he's been a long-term defender, justice for the Jedi, and the Jedi are the good guys, and we want to see the Jedi being good. I'm wondering if he's going to struggle with this episode or not. I can't wait to find out on Force Center. Pitch for them, because we love Force Center here, obviously, because this is a case of where the narrative kind of points out some Jedi flaws, and that the Jedi are bad, quote unquote, or they're on the other side of what is right.
I think flawed is an apt word.
Definitely from the witch's point of view and from Coral's point of view. From Coral's point of view, they are evil, they say. But I do think I hope you enjoyed it still. I think there's definitely a way you could get through it. If you watch it, it's from the point of view of the witches. So it's definitely, we have not had this perspective before. A lot of times our perspective from the Jedi were from the Jedi point of view, and we only touch base a little bit in Clone Wars. Like, for example, during the Ahsoka trial arc, we saw how some people view the Jedi with the Bartez sisters, how some people view the Jedi as too high and mighty and not with the people per se. This is another one of those episodes that I don't think it necessarily should decry the Jedi, but say that there are at least some PR issues. Let's put it that way with the Jedi. And also, I don't want to dismiss that the Jedi are not always on the right side of things. No. They're not like squeaky clean and it's all PR. They make some questionable choices, as we're going to see. And this show doesn't back away from that. We kind of confront a little bit of that head on. I don't think it vilifies them completely. I think there's something going on, and we're going to figure that out. But I like Mother Anastasia's path in that. She kind of comes across as probably the most level-headed of the bunch and the most open to conversation and figuring out what's going on than anybody else. And that's why, for me, best character of the week. So before you go,
luckily that the Ken, Joseph, and Jennifer are so open-minded that they're probably going to we're going to probably listen to their 2-hour podcast later, and they're going to open our minds to things that we didn't even consider. I know they do that every week for me. Even Joseph, who is very much over the Justice for the Jedi, and I am on the other side over the. I'm not on the AJAB squad, but I definitely see the flaws. But
absolutely. And we'll get more into that. As you said, we always go through these little things bit by bit. Segment by segment, but we'll catch up at the end with everything else, all the theories and everything else. We'll go deeper as we get along. Let's move on to our next segment first for now, a little brighter one. I spec.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
This is quite simply our favorite line of dialogue for the week. This could be anything from a funny quote or from a meaningful segment. Matty, I'll let you go first this time.
This line hit me like a ton of bricks. Because I don't think it was in the trailer that I saw. And if it was, I completely forgot about it. This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
It was in the trailer.
Allowed to use it.
Yeah. It was in the trailer, but it is one of my favorites as well. I did not choose it. I only didn't choose it because it was in the trailer. That's the only reason why for me. So I've sat with it for a while. If I hadn't sat with it for a while, that would actually probably have resonated even more with me this episode because of that. It is a great line of dialogue overall. And it is a very key point to what we're talking about here. The Jedi are definitely the monopoly of the Force at this point. Everybody else is, even like my wife is kind of like, oh, really? Like when they were talking about how it's the law that the Jedi need to be able to kids and everything else, exactly, to test them and everything else. And like, well, why is that the law? Like, why do they have? I was trying to explain, like, well, partially I know part of it is like specifically for this particular segment, they have ideas that not only are they Force sensitive, but they are Force sensitive being trained in the ability of the Force. And that's always the biggest no for the Jedi, because without proper training they could go to the dark side or whatever at this point. So that's where this kind of steps in there. But it is kind of that question is there, like, well, why are the Jedi the ones who get to determine what is because they won the war, because they won the Sith War back in the day. There's other people out there who use the Force, I'm sure. It's a very fascinating concept, and one we haven't fully explored yet. I'm glad we're starting to explore some of that. We do have the Night Sisters out there. We do have other sects. I mean, in the old EU, there were a bunch of different sects that used to have Force connections and Force powers, or like the Grey Jedi type people. And there were other, there was obviously Night Sisters from Dathomir. That's where they were usually created. There's a lot of potential out there. So I think this is fascinating to discover, to see. And I like that line does kind of poke the bear a little bit at what some of the Jedi dogma, some of the Jedi rules that maybe should have been touched upon or looked at to maybe, I don't know, massage and figure out a better way to get what you think is necessary out of it. Sometimes laws are written in such a way that they end up hurting people with good intentions. Like they their intentions are good and they have some good to it, but sometimes the way it's written will hurt some other people. So I feel like it's a good thing to explore.
Is your quote of the week a quote from Saul by any chance?
It is not.
Okay. The line when Saul says the Jedi don't take children, I was like, oh, you dear summer child. Like, what do you mean you don't take children? You were you were taken as a child. You were.
They weren't.
What did he say? 7 or 8 when they took him in?
4. He was 4. He
4.
said he was 4.
He was 4 years old when they took him.
But the line of dialogue is also from a certain point of view. They don't take children. They are given children, or they invite children, and they like. It feels like that's the line that he's going with. I feel he believes that. I feel like he's not lying. I think this is how he looks at it, and I think it's how the Jedi look at it. The witches and the rest of the universe might think differently.
And like when they said, about them being in the Republic, and Mother Anastasia turned around saying, "We're not in the Republic.
Right?
What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
You police the Republic. You shouldn't be here. Go away." Like,
yeah.
What the witches were doing wasn't like. I'm going to say that because we're talking quotes here, so you go ahead.
That's right.
What was your quote, Louis?
My quote was also from Mother Anastasia, and I just loved the idea when she had the conversation with Osha at the end, and Osha wasn't sure what she wanted, or she was sure what she wanted, but she was scared about saying it to Mother Anastasia specifically, and she just said, "Fear should not make this decision, Osha." And it was such a beautiful way of like getting it out of her. Anastasia knew what she wanted. Anastasia knew that she was scared of leaving her. The mom knew the daughter was scared of leaving home, leaving her. But as a good mother, she has to support and say, you must do what you think is right. It's a remix of a Shmi line. Obviously, this is where that connection comes in. Mm-hmm. But it's the way we have to touch base on fear. Fear. Mother Anastasia actually sounds like a Jedi. She sounded more like a Jedi than some of the others that did at this point.
These Jedi and witches, I'm telling you, man, if they just sat down and talked, I think they'd have a lot in common.
I think they would as well. Absolutely. The only issue is the dark side potentially of creating kids. We don't know exactly how that came. Coral seems to think that the Jedi would be very upset about that.
If they did that.
Right.
We don't know.
I don't know how it happens or how they did it. We don't know.
Because exactly. There was another Zabrak who was the product of a human and a Zabrak. Mm-hmm. His name was Maul.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who knows? But I just love that line because it made her. I'm always here for Qui-Gon like characters, and Mother Anastasia comes off a little Qui-Gonish in this moment. It's in terms of she just has a connection with the Force or with the thread or whatever she wants to call it, but she has a spiritual connection and she wants to motivate but properly support the people that she knows and loves into making their own decisions for the proper reasons. And I feel like especially her and Soul would have gotten along very well together, I think. And I think that Mother Anastasia would have made a great Jedi, potentially, in the right way.
Soul would have made a good witch.
Time. Or Soul might have made a good witch. That's true. Absolutely. So that was my favorite line of dialogue this week. So, all right, next up, we have Put That in Your Holocron and Snoke It, or explore more lore.
Do you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Here's your Darth Plagueis reference. In canon. Anyway. Anyhow, that comes across. It's right in our show.
You sly motherfucker. I'd expect that from me.
Well, this is the segment where we decide, we look at something in the episode and we decide we want to see more of it and find out more about it, explore more lore. And that's it. I want to see the children being created. I want to see the connection to Darth Plagueis eventually, potentially, if we get there. I might never see that aspect. But how Darth Plagueis got there, how the witches got there. Is it a pathway to abilities some would consider to be unnatural, as they say? It's very fascinating to me where this came from, because we have two twins, which are always big in Star Wars, having been created by the Force and by maybe forcibly created by the Force by Mother Anastasia. That sounds bad, but I don't mean it forced anyway, but it is. If it is an unnatural thing that they're doing, then that's what it is. If she's tempting the dark side with that, potentially, we don't know yet. But that's why I need to know and to figure out what exactly happened, how exactly they come through it. Is it unnatural? is it meant to be dark side? Is it something we should be afraid of, or we should be in terms of trying to stop it or whatever? But that is specifically the way I want to figure out what happened here with this birth. How did we get here? And is there a connection to Plagueis, Palpatine, Vader, Anakin along the way? So
I'm starting to think that these secrets that not only the Sith knew. You know, I'm not sure the Sith are the only ones to know these secrets anymore. Is cloning, dark science, secrets only the Sith knew? I'm not so sure the Sith are the only ones to know them.
I don't disagree with you, my friend. I don't disagree with you.
My lord, I want to know is why were the Coven driven to this homeworld? Like, what did they do? Because I get that there seems to be dark magics at play here, but why were they made to run into hiding? Is it kind of like a Salem witch trial of like they levitated a goat and they ran out of town? Because yeah, they are creepy as shit. Yeah, okay, we got the chant that was like power of one, power of two, power of me, which that I will admit took me out, but like not for a bad reason. I just thought that was like, oh, we're bringing in Wicked, the musical, into Star Wars now, are we? Okay, cool, I'm down for it. But like they're creepy as shit, obviously because they're witches. They wear all black, like
Right,
or like all dark colors, but like. It didn't appear to me they were looking to hurt anyone.
right.
Like, why would they go to an abandoned world if they were looking for someone? Like, if Mother Anastasia said it herself that like the world was abandoned. Like, why would they want to go to somewhere abandoned if they didn't seem to me like they were coming off like they wanted to really hurt anyone? The Jedi did, because Endara said that, oh, we thought this world was uninhabited. Then why did you have Sol spying on children? Why did you have to cut the link to the bridge when you walked in? You were the aggressors. These witches they were forced out of whatever home they were forced out of to this abandoned world. And they didn't seem like what they're doing seems unnatural, but it doesn't mean just because people always fear what they don't understand. Like, just because we don't understand it doesn't mean they were looking to hurt anyone.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point you make. And it's funny, we're talking about it a little bit, what was going on. I had a couple of people ask me. I mean, Jeremiah Morris was one. We talked a little bit after the episode aired. And my wife, we were talking about a little bit too, is like, are these Night Sisters? Are these an offshoot of the Night Sisters? I don't know. I partly hope it wasn't, because I would love to see different aspects of the Force throughout the galaxy. At the same time, calling them witches does lead me to believe that this was some kind of, I mean, are there different witch covens? Yeah, I get that, but
you get good witches though.
No, and I get that, but I almost feel like if they wanted to separate them entirely, we would have gone in a potentially different direction with it. Potentially,
there is a chance. Don't they have a name? Aren't they called the Path?
Well, but they could be their own thing. They could be their own offshoot of the Night Sisters. I kind of feel like it was almost implied that because they're witches, they're a coven, that they had left the Night Sisters some time ago for whatever reason, and maybe they went their own direction. Maybe they're not connected at all. I don't know. I kind of feel like calling them witches made that potentially a possibility, but who knows exactly what's going on there? I don't.
Yeah, they don't have a name. They're just called the witches.
Yeah. So, do they have to be? No, they don't have to be. Although, if they aren't, I wish they kind of had a different name. That's my own personal thing, though. So.
Maybe do. We just don't know. And it is kind of a case of like, if it looks like a duck, it sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck. If it looks like a witch, it chants like a witch, it casts spells like a witch, it's probably a witch.
It's gonna be dunked by Monty Python,
That's the best reference you've ever made. That's the best reference you've ever made.
The Monty Python Star Wars crossover I never thought I needed.
Give it to me.
All right. Okay. Then let us. Anything further to say on your end? or should we move on?
No.
Our next segment.
Move
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Move on to our next segment. This one.
Hear a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Seeing a lot of action. This is our favorite action bits. There wasn't a whole lot of action in this episode. Obviously, ending at the moments. I'll start, and I will say that my favorite moment was Soul saving Osha, especially because it was such a mirror to the more current time when it was the same basic thing. There it is, Soul holding Osha up, saving her from falling. In this case, while May dies in their eyes. Obviously, we not dead, obviously, but like at that point, it looks like after everything going down, it was a great bit of moment. It just, again, that poetry rhyming thing years later, the same thing as Soul saving Osha and like bounding them together. Obviously, they had the highest connection between them the entire episode. Soul definitely Osha had reached out, made some connection with Kilnaka, but basically mostly connection was with Soul. That's why he was Soul's Padawan, and that's why years later, Soul is there to protect her again, to maybe make up for some things that we don't know about for sure. But yeah, it's an interesting side-by. So that's my favorite action beat this week. You?
I think mine's similar. I think my thing's the moment just before you had the bridge moment between the two twins. And you even saw the symbolism, like there was the big crack in the wall behind them. The very bridge that they were standing on was split in two. It's very symbolic of how the twins, while they are, they are the same person. They may be of the same DNA, the same manner of creation, perhaps the same presence in the Force. If my whole dyad thing is an actual thing, but they are still their own people. Like they may look the same, they may still be the same, like from a DNA perspective, but they are two very different people. And I think having that crack down the middle of the bridge being split, the crack in the wall, I think that was really symbolic of these two going two completely separate ways.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So, all right, let's move on to our next segment. I think I want to go a little bit quicker, a little bit of a hard out, but I want to definitely get into our visions. So the next step we have.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Laugh it up, fuzzball. This is our favorite comic moments. Usually Star Wars has some beats of comedy. Not a whole lot of comedy this week. Not going to lie. There wasn't a whole lot of laughs. Laughs is more of a tragic episode. But the one moment that got me that maybe wasn't even meant to be comic and it wasn't like laugh out loud, but it did give me a little chuckle, was the test. When Soul is testing Osha, and Osha's trying to fail because she's been told by her sister and her mother's that she should fail the Jedi test so that she can stay with the witches. And she tries to fail, doing her best to be the good daughter. And Soul just immediately knows what she's doing. And when she says like spaceship, just like this, they call back to episode 1, we see Anakin getting the test, and it's not, and he's like, correct. And like the second time through, and she's like, but I didn't. And Soul's like,
I got the first one. I got the Tuca cat. I don't know what the second one was though. Maybe it looked like
the Lothal thing. I think it was actually the spy.
Yeah, like an outpost kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know what we would say that to a kid though. How would a kid look at that and go?
Yeah, why would a kid have known what that is?
Big building. Something. That did make me chuckle. Some people liked that. Some people thought that was a little disingenuous with Soul, but I thought it was kind of a funny chuckle. It made me laugh a little bit, just a little bit. So. How about you?
Just Kelnaka sitting at his speeder, like fixing his speeder, and then Osha walks up to him, and Kelnaka just turns around and just say, "Oh, hello there, small child. Like, have you come to say hello to me?" Like he's just like, "Would you like a hug? Can I?"
At the same time, how he's doing it, he's like growling at him like a little like a bear. So it's like part of he's like, I'm surprised Osha's not like, oh god.
I think he does seem very gentle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So all right, let's move on then next to mission briefing. We do that one. We go 1 second.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
This is basically when we decide that we catch up on the rest of things before we go
Mm.
into our rankings of the episode. It's going to be a little back and forth as things we've missed. One thing I want to notate right away is Indara in this episode comes off as very strong, but not necessarily the most benevolent Jedi. She doesn't come across evil, but she's not exactly.
She could have been Ki-Adi-Mundi's. I know we talked about like Yord maybe being Ki-Adi-Mundi's master.
Right.
Indara might have been Yord's master.
It seems like she's very by the books kind of thing. And one thing I noticed is, I don't know if you noticed this or not. It came to me when I watched it. I have it on in the background now. Like I always watch the episode while we're talking. There is she has, in the first time we saw her in the future, she had these eye markings. Not there as heavily. There's less of them in this episode. And I know that in like our world, and it's not always 1-to-1. Sometimes you put marks of grief, or you put marks of something you've done wrong as a tattoo to remind yourself of something you did potentially wrong. And I'm wondering if that comes from something that happened on Brendock. I wonder if she regrets what happened on Brendock and that became something that went there. I'm not sure about that. Just something to consider. That's like a quick bit. But what I really want to talk about in the same line is Torben. Torben, obviously I think it's obvious we don't have the full story about what happened here. We didn't. This is all from Osha's perspective.
It's Rashomon. We're going to get multiple perspectives of the same incident.
I fully agree, especially because the fire that started feels like it shouldn't have killed everybody so quickly. So everything else, it ends up being that way. That will be my one minor maybe problem with it per se. It just seems like it's there quickly. It's like, okay, what happened? But the Torben of it all is that I especially didn't see anything that would make Torben have to take the Barrage vow and have to eventually commit to take his own life because of what happened, right? Nothing there. However, at the end of this episode, some stuff we missed, we see Torben back on the ship. Some pretty heavy scrapes along his face. You know what we don't see? We don't see Kilnaka on the ship at the end.
No. Bro, don't put that evil on Kilnaka.
I think we're going to see Kilnaka versus Torben at some point. I think something happened.
I think that Kilnaka started the fire.
No. I think what happened is, I think there's a lot of potentials for a lot of different potentials of possibilities. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I have some ideas of, did Mother Coral decide to attack the Jedi or do something to provoke the Jedi because to make them kind of like bait them into making the first move so that they can say the Jedi are evil and we want to keep Osha? Or did she do something? Either way, something
Maybe
happened.
They messed with his mind and he just lost it.
He already messed with his mind once, right? When he was there with the people, like when they first got to the scene to see where Coral lied and there's no children there. When they made their first step, Torben had his mind screwed. His eyes went black and he went down until they let him go. Was that all they did, or did that right from there? Or did that plant something in him for him to do something later on potentially? I don't know yet. I really don't know. But I feel like something happened. I think maybe did the Jedi make the wrong decision? Did they go, Osha wants to come with us? I don't think they're going to let Osha come, so let's go take Osha. I mean, that's the wrong decision they made. Did we maybe Torben's like, we'll get her? Maybe Indara was like, yeah, maybe we should. Maybe Kilnaka didn't feel good about it. And all of a sudden the fight starts happening and Kilnaka decides this isn't right and starts like kind of defending the witches to a degree. Like, we should be fighting them. So Kilnaka versus Torben, and Torben realizes that at the end, all the witches are dead and it's his fault to a degree.
I mean, getting hit by a Wookiee would put your eye out. So it makes sense.
Right?
God damn it, you better not throw a spanner in the works of my fucking police investigation, my detective investigation.
That was one thing I threw out there. The other thing is also, are the witches actually dead? Was this like
Look pretty dead to me.
Or were they trying to fake their death? Suicide. kind of thing in order to appear dead. So the Jedi would go, okay, they're dead, and they can be free to leave the planet with the coven safely intact without having to worry about the Jedi knowing who they are, where they are.
They just ran from their home, though. Why would they want to destroy this one? Where they could just send the Jedi back in.
Because the Jedi know where they are.
Yeah, they send them back and say, go, don't come back.
Yeah, and then
They've
the
shown
Jedi
that
come
they
back.
have power over them.
And then the Jedi come back with 500 Jedi or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the scare. It's better to
these witches.
It's better to go, I don't know where the Jedi don't know us. They don't want us. They have no idea where we are. That's the better way. That's the better play for the witches. They can fake their own death. We're no longer a part of your world. Go ahead, leave us there. And then they leave.
That's a lot of hassle, and they could just leave.
Well, they could, but they want the Jedi to think they're dead.
Could do.
Potentially. I'm saying there's another idea in there.
Don't stop trying to throw a spanner into my works.
Either way, what we do know, what we definitely know, is that let's talk to the other thing about this. May starting the fire. I have to admit that this one threw me off the mark a little bit. The idea that May turned on Osha and wanted to kill her all of a sudden to keep her from leaving, that didn't ring true to me. And like, I think, is there something else going on here? Did somebody convince her to do this? Because it's like, it seems like kind of weird that, like, I mean, I get that she was obsessively like loving her sister, and like, excuse me. She loved her sister so much, but the idea all of a sudden, like, I love you so much, I'm not going to let you leave so much, I'm going to kill you to keep you here. It seemed like a step too far for me. And if that's the way it is, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to love it. I'll whatever, and I'll get over it. But it feels like that would be that. It almost feels like she was influenced by something or someone out there, potentially.
I don't know. I think she from the start, she seemed like she was desperate to keep Osha there. I think it was just the reactions of a hurt and desperate child, because you remember they even said it. They're the only two children there. If Osha leaves, then May is truly alone with these witches. Like, she even, and like when they said we're the only two children here, you even saw the two witches that were like doing their hair and stuff. Like, look, like, oh crap, they're figuring it out.
Right.
So they are important. So I don't think May knows anything. I think she's just I think she's just a desperate little girl that doesn't want her sister to go.
And I get that, but killing her? I mean, it's impulsive. Maybe she is impulsive.
They're kids, man. How many times have your kid said something like,
yeah, but they didn't start a fire. They didn't start a fire at the door.
I don't think she did, though, because, like, how could setting light to a piece of paper like that, and notice how they cut away when she lit the paper on fire, how could that blow up a power reactor, the floor below?
No, that I get. I get there's more to it than going. There's definitely more to it, but even the actions itself kind of felt like a little strong for me. I could be wrong, and if I'm proven wrong, I'm happy. I'll be happily proven.
Of course,
what's happened, because it did ring a little weird to me. That's part of it.
To me, it looked like she was just burning the Jedi symbol. That she would. It felt like she said that she was going to kill me just to get her to like back up, close the door, burn the thing in front of her, and try and talk to her through the door where Osha couldn't escape.
Right.
And then things just got out of her because Osha couldn't get out. Okay. Obviously, she found a way out.
Right.
I think like she just wanted to get Osha in a spot where she could just sit her still.
Right.
And be like, don't go anywhere. Please stay with me. I don't want to be on my own here. There's no other children. I will be on my own if you go. I don't want to be alone, but I don't want to leave here.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
And I don't want to put too much because like they are just children, and I kind of don't want to take that from like they're already having their innocence taken by the Jedi and by these witches. I think that their love and their connection for each other as twins, I think that's the only pure thing that they've really got.
Right.
In because they were created for a reason.
Right.
They are the only two children there for a reason. The Jedi are there to take Osha away for a reason. I think like their bond and their connection is the only thing strong enough for like May to be like, no, You're not going. I'm
Right.
going to convince you to stay here, even if I have to kill you.
Right.
I think
Right.
I get it. I'm not discounting your theory. I never would, and I never would.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But I want to choose to believe that like their connection as twins is stronger than that.
It's possible. It's quite possible.
It's possible. And again, I don't want to discount what you're
Not
saying, but like I don't know. There's just something in that I'm like, I think it was just a desperate little girl that didn't want to lose her sister. Because you see at the end the look on her face when she sees the tree that they both were standing under with the butterfly. Like
I will say that May obviously comes off very impulsive, very
I May Yorosha.
If one of the two was gonna go dark side, it would be May. It's definitely she seems to be more aggressive, more intense with it. Whereas Osha is more wanting to do good and wanting to do the world. So I get that to a degree as well. But all right, anything else from Mission Building we haven't talked about really?
No, not really. I mean, Soul was great. Soul was. I really don't want to believe that Soul was like had anything
a part of something to.
Yeah, I hope I think he did, and I'm gonna get to what I think it was. I don't think they had any like specific hand in what happened to the witches. I'll get on to why in our next segment, but the one that I do have my eyes on is Indara.
Yeah.
Because of how adamant she was, and she wasn't completely honest either. Remember, she said we thought this planet was inhabited. No, you didn't.
No.
Because you came in, you cut the lock to the fortress. So you're not being entirely honest with these witches either. So what makes you better?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's something that I think it's more Indara. I think that actually it's a lot Torben as the young impulsive.
Yep.
And who wants revenge for getting like looking embarrassed and like they mess with his mind. I think he's a little upset about that. I think that like, well, we'll get into it more. Yeah, I agree though. Anything else? The witches were great. I did like the design of the witches, like stronghold. They're not really stronghold, but they're placed in the mountains or whatever. I love the beauty of the trees and those creatures. What was that?
It's like Helm's Deep.
Yeah, Helm's Deep. It was very Helm's Deep, absolutely. I loved Coral. I thought Coral was a very strong character. She needed to be there to kind of be the antithesis of Mother Anastasia for a matter. In terms of you need that kind of hard ass antagonist necessarily, but someone who does throw a monkey wrench or a spanner into the works, so to speak. I did like their relationship there. I will say, and I want to say this carefully, because obviously we've seen what happened with like Jake Lloyd and everything else, and child acting is a very tough thing to do. And I want to try to say it as respectfully as I can, because I don't want to harsh anybody. I'm not going to bully anybody or anything else. I will say the children actors here did take me out every once in a while. I wasn't fully all in on them. They had some great moments. I think Osha had some great moments with Mother Anastasia, which was really well done. I think she had her moments with Soul, which was really well done. The May Osha, like, it took me out a little bit, if that makes sense at times. Like, it felt a little too earthy, too human, they're human, but like it's something about that wasn't quite ringing true. That's a tough style. It's not that I don't want to say it's their fault. It's just children. It's hard to find really solid children actors. You have someone like a Jodie Turner-Smith. You have someone like a Lee Jung-jae, and you have some children who are just inexperienced or not quite fully developed as far as their acting chops go. I mean, this is you don't find great acting children throughout. Usually, they more or less you got to go with it. That's why a lot of times you'll see them like you hold them to a minimum, but if somebody needing them for a story like this, they have to be right out there in front and center. And it's not like they are awful, but there were times that they definitely took me out just a smidge, if that makes sense.
I just had a quick see, because obviously we had the same actress who plays Osha and May adult. I just had a quick check to see if it was the same with the children, because I thought maybe, a child trying to act opposite like a wooden pole or something or whatever they got posted up could have been. But no, it's
different actors.
Osha was played by Lauren Brady and May was played by Leah Brady.
Those are Bright sisters.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It says they are. So yeah, who knows? Maybe it was their first gig.
I don't want to pile
No,
on.
hey man, the kids,
took me out a little bit.
they're kids. They're not gonna get any Oscars yet. So I'm not saying you're harping on them for it, but
Right.
I
I have to be real in that.
Yeah, you got to speak your truth, man. Like no one, you're a father. You're not going to be attacking children. Or it's just sometimes you
they
dip
had
out
some
a little
great
bit.
moments.
That's fine.
They did have some great moments. I will say. I'm just as the overall look at the episode, it did take me out a little bit here and there. All right, anything else you want to say before we go to Parsecs and Force Vision and wrap up?
Yeah, let's get.
All right, let's go to Parsecs next.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Less than 12 is 11. We always scale things on a scale of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects because, we always turn things up to 11 here. On a scale of 1 to 11, what did you rate this episode?
I gave this a 7.5, and I think it would have been higher if this was the first episode.
Interesting. Why do you think that?
I think if we'd established the tragedy with a good mystery, you want to establish the tragedy first, and the tragedy in this case is the fire and the death of the mothers. You go into a murder mystery, you go watch like something like Knives Out. What's the first thing you see is the murder. If we're doing like a mystery, I think I would have been more like in the flow of it if it went first. Like if I'd have got this invested in the character of Mother Anasea first, and then realized, seeing the two girls grow up. Does it work with having what is episode 3 and what was episode 1 playing at the same time? I don't know. We probably would have had a lot more people check out. I don't care about that personally, but I think personally for myself, I would have preferred episode 3 to go first, so we could have seen the tragedy, had the setup, build the scope of this mystery, and then delve deep into it.
I get that to a degree. I understand and I disagree.
Okay,
that's fine. I'm gonna give this a solid 8 out of 11. First of all, but I honestly like the idea. First, I like this is part of a mystery. It's part of the onion storytelling in a way. You present something and you kind of peel the layers back. Okay, well,
second Shrek reference in 2 weeks.
There you go. Like onion. But you go back and forth, and you see you got the presentation of what happened, of what this overall storyline is going to be. Somebody murdering Jedi, not Osha, even though it's like May is alive, so there's some mystery there going on. And then we take a step back and go, okay, well, let's see what happened. But I love specifically about this way of storytelling is the Rashomon aspect of it that we know that we feel is coming. We know it's coming because we're getting this presented as this is what happened. But it's intelligent. If you're an intelligent viewer, which all of the viewers basically are, if we're even semi-intelligent, I think you watch this and you go, okay, we didn't get everything. There's a lot missing from this take. And so we're going to have to see this from a different point of view, from a different angle on sort of things. So there's more of another layer of the onion to get to. So I kind of feeling we're going to go like 1, 2 flashback. I think we're going to go back to modern. I could be wrong, but I think we're going to go back to the current day, current time frame. Another episode or 2. And then we'll go back again and get that other perspective of it to really kind of solidify what exactly happened. And I think that's the way we're going to go down. I think that's a really good way to do it. You'll learn a little bit, take a step back, and get the background. Learn a little bit, take a step back, get that background. I think it's a way to uncover it. We got this all right away, especially as a Rashomon style thing. This is the first thing we see, and it's just the one perspective. It comes across kind of strange. If we present the people first, then we go back and we are easier able to say, there's more going on here because we know about Torben in the future. We know that Torben killed himself, and we know that Torben had taken the Barash vow. We didn't see anything that would lead Torben to do that at this point. So we know that. So I think that's a good, cool way to do it because it's a different approach to it. But I get what you're saying as well, and that would work well for you. That's fine. I'm gonna give
I agree with you though in the 2 and then the 1. If you notice with the titling as well, this one just had a singular word, and the other 2 had 2. So I think it's going to divulge and then come together in the third part, and then it's going to divulge again and then come together in the third part.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, all right, let's go into our next segment, our final segment of the day. We got Force Vision.
Premonitions? Premonitions.
I kind of already did mine for the most part, kind of during mission briefing. Not gonna lie, I'll say it one more time in a quick fashion, and we'll get to yours and let you lay out your path. I think we obviously haven't seen the whole story. I think Kelnaka and Torben are going to go at it. I think that's a big strong point. I think we're going to learn that they all did something wrong, and the Jedi had a big part of what happened with the. I don't think necessarily I'm not going to say they definitely didn't just all out attack to slaughter the witches and to take Osha. I think it wasn't that. I think there was something the Jedi did to provoke a little bit of something. It might have been Coral who actually did the provoking, but some of the Jedi are going to take it too far, specifically Torben, and he's going to have a big to do with. I think Torben might be the one who kills Mother Anasea, potentially. Something to that effect, and Kelnaka is going to turn on him, and Kelnaka is going to go away into his own. That's why he's in exile, because he's left the Jedi Order at this point. He doesn't believe in the Jedi anymore. And why Andara is perhaps chastised for doing what she did. She did it the wrong way. What Soul did is what I really want to find out, because how Soul, I think Soul is involved somehow. I think he's complicit in some fashion, probably not in the same way that Torben was potentially, but he's going to feel he is, and that's going to kind of push him the way he goes for a little while now, I think. But Matty, here the floor is yours. Let's hear your Sherlockian views.
I don't think the Jedi killed the witches.
Okay.
I think what they did wrong is not doing anything to stop it. That place is full of dark side energy. It's what drew them to that planet. I feel that the Jedi could have perhaps seen the fire get started, thought in their arrogance and their foolishness, their, whatever you want to call it, this is the natural order of the Force being put right, of these witches, these dark entities. They see the fire happening and they do nothing to stop it. I think that's the wrongdoing of the Jedi, and that they didn't intervene to help these people because they thought, no, they are using the Force for ill intent. They are tapping into the dark side. They need to be purged. So we're not going to do anything about it. And then you have Saul maybe taking it onto his own of, no, there's children in there, because he even said it himself. He tried to save May. So maybe he went in and tried to save the children, but he only came back with one. He didn't come back with them both. He only came back with one. I do think someone was in there. Who else knew about that tree? Who else knew about that poison? Who else knew what happened that night? And who else was on that planet? We just didn't see him.
Yeah. I have to be honest that I that did flash through my mind. They specifically mentioned the Bunta in the beginning, and the poison,
right?
Thing. Exactly.
They went right to it, and it's right the last shot. And Kamir knows what happened that night. He knows about the Bunta tree, and he knows about the poison. He told May about the poison.
Yep. So either Kamir, or if Kamir is not the Master Sith, then the Master Sith might have been there as well.
I think it's the same thing.
I think it is too, but I want to make it clear that if it ends up being that they're not, I think that the Master Sith was there as well, or potentially something to that effect. I think that's who saved May. I think that's obviously absolutely who saved May. I think they were there. Yeah. I think they pushed things. I think maybe they're even a part. The Master Sith could be a female. It could have been part of the witches. One of the witches could be it could be Coral, who's the Master Sith.
Potentially, but one thing we also need to remember is the Sith have been gone for so long. And that place is so full of dark energy. That Sith could have slipped in right under their noses, and they would have no idea. And that Sith probably knew what was happening, probably sensed Osha and May, just like if the Jedi could sense them, why couldn't the Sith?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And
But
the
I
Sith
will
went
throw
in
it
there
out.
was like, the Jedi are there. I'm trying to set up the Jedi to fail anyway. 2 birds with 1 stone. I can set up the Jedi as murderers, and I can get the children at the same time. But
Let me ask you. I don't remember. Did we see Coral's body
no,
in the Sith? I am wondering if Coral isn't the Sith partially. It's not they're not there because Coral
maybe.
very aggressive, very impulsive, very aggressive, wanting to protect what she has. Does not like the Jedi at all. Obviously, carried the children, and all of a sudden the Jedi are taking the children. I don't know whether maybe she was not planting there, or maybe she was in there. Maybe she was trying to learn how to create life herself as part of the long line to get to Plagueis and everybody else potentially in that way. I don't know. I don't
He
know.
did say to Mother Anastasia, "What if the Jedi knew how you created these children?" So maybe it was a supernatural thing, but I'm just like, Kamir knew about the poison. He knew about the tree.
Yeah,
he knew what happened that night. So unless you are right and he was told all these, I don't know, man. He had that, like, he knew, like, he was there.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely. Maybe they both were there. You know,
maybe.
I'm just saying. I just throwing it out there, like on the idea that maybe if it's not Kamir, because Kamir, I will say I still love that idea. Part of me wants to go, like, I've heard the interviews from what's the headline saying you think it's going to go some way and it's going to go a different way. I almost wonder if we are falling for the early red herring of Kamir being the, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking outside the box and I go, well, who else could it be? And Coral does strike me as a possibility. So I just want to kind of toss it out there now. So,
but I think that the overall mystery everyone's talking about is, what did the Jedi do?
Right.
I don't think it's the mystery of what did the Jedi do. I think it's what the Jedi didn't do. Because in their arrogance, they saw this fortress burning. They saw these dark side witches being killed by this fire, or whatever was in what they thought was the fire, but was really whatever was in there.
Right.
And they chose to do nothing.
Yeah, could absolutely be the case. Could absolutely be the case. Especially if Indara or whoever, like, orders them not to do something potentially.
Yeah, like maybe Kalnakas goes to run in there and she's just like, nope.
Nope.
This is the natural order of the Force. The dark side must be purged. Let it happen.
Nope. Let them cook. I mean,
horrible bastard.
That was pretty horrible. But hey, it is what it is. All right, that's what we're gonna do. We have to wrap it up now, folks. Any last things you wanted to say about the episode, Matty, or anything of that nature?
I'm so glad we like that. That has to be put that as the episode title, please. Let them cook.
All right. All right. Anything else you got to say, or are we good to go?
No, we're good to go.
Good to go. Good to go. All right. I appreciate everybody here. Obviously, where can the books find you, Matty?
Socials are all down there. You guys know where to find me.
You know where to find me as well. You can also find me all over this channel. Got some great stuff going on. A review with Lego. We go back to the 2009 version of V tomorrow. More of that jazz, the Roger Taylor track on Crown Jewels this week. Obviously, just yesterday, we did have guest seasonal co-host Miss Kiwi Jess on with Big Blue Box, but PJ should be returning next week, I believe, for the Big Blue Box as we continue on down that train. Eventually, we'll come back with 2 Meter for White Dudes on film after the Doctor Who season is over. I think that is everything that we have. Or there's an upcoming episode of a new show that will probably come out in July, which we will talk about soon. I'm very close to announcing the official all the deets because we are getting close to figuring out exactly when we're recording. But that will come soon, I promise you. Stay tuned for that. Until next time, as always, folks, may the Force be with you. Always.